Today, we are doing a 2-round 2026 NFL mock draft with trades. So let's get right into this. If you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Today's video will be without trades, but we are doing a 3-round mock draft with trades later this week. So subscribe just so you guys don't miss out on that, because I do this every single week. Just dropped a ton of other content, including evaluating all the rookies every single week. I have it evaluated on my sheet on the Patreon, but I end up having the top performers and the bottom performers coming out on this show every single week as well. Same thing for the draft prospects. Stock report. Let's get into this though, starting out with the number 1 pick with the New Orleans Saints. You subbed out Spencer Rattler. I know that he's not necessarily creme de la creme, but I thought he was doing a good job. I really did. And no, was he like a starting quarterback worthy? No, but when you're talking about the 5th round pick, you saw the flashes. He had those moments. Like, it is honestly surprising. Hello, hair. Please get the fuck out of my face. It's honestly surprising to see him get taken out like kind of mid-game in the middle of a pretty tough matchup as well. We're just going to fucking deal with it. And you know, it does make me concerned as to whether a quarterback is an option here in the 1st round. However, I do think that when you draft a quarterback in the 2nd round, it's going to be very tough at number 1 to basically say, I'm going to be loyal to him. But simultaneously, this team needs so much help that there's just better value at other positions. Now, we'll see if Nussmeier remains the offensive coordinator. I think because of the fact that we saw Spencer Rattler perform well, we could end up seeing a Garrett Nussmeier being taken in like round 3, round 4 territory, where he ends up pairing back up with his dad. And you test out for one more year, because I sense a lot of these players are going to be returning to school. And I promise you, not every pick is going to be like this, but I do think that it might be in the best interest of the Saints to look at the future. Now, here's the only reason why I would pause on the New Orleans Saints going Ruben Bain at number 1. It's technically a twofold reason, or a 2-part reason, I should say. First off, switching to a 3-4, it does make it a little bit difficult for Ruben Bain, as more of the built for a 4-3 defense, to be an every down player. Now, because of his build and because of his strength, I don't mind him kicking inside on certain downs, but it does certainly make me wonder if this is an every down player in this system. Now, I also say the best coaches work around their talent, not the other way around. So I'm still going to be going Ruben Bain here. But the second reason, and something that I would end up being genuinely questioning whether they'd be open to Ruben Bain, is Mickey Loomis's love for measurables. And, Dennis Allen was a guy who was 6'5 plus, 270 plus. And Mickey is definitely going to be a little bit concerned when Ruben Bain's arm length comes, I think, 33 or under, and doesn't test out through the roof. Still a great player, still going to test very, very well. But when you do look at Ruben Bain Jr., I mean, he's 275. I don't know why PFF is not pulling in that data, but Ruben Bain, like, he will have some negative measurable traits that could end up bringing up some red flags in terms of the ceiling to his game. But for a team that's definitely needing a long-term edge option, we're seeing with Chase Young, there's some sparks there for sure, but you can't just imagine that the rest of the team is going to be able to maintain that consistency level, especially with Cam Jordan continuously getting older, pretty much on the way out. Ruben Bain could essentially be the Cam Jordan replacement there, who has been a cornerstone for the better part of a decade at this point, if not more. At number 2 for the New York Jets, this is going to be quick and easy. We're going quarterback here. I mean, ownership, not a fan, obviously, of Justin Fields. So I do think he'll want to take this in a different direction. And I know some people, I don't agree with this comp myself, but they believe Fernando Mendoza is Jared Goff. Talking about a former coach from the Lions, probably could end up adjusting how his offenses ran in order to basically mirror what he was used to seeing in Detroit. Of course, Glenn was a defensive coach, not an offense, but if the ownership is wanting to see a shift, I think the coach might default to what he's seen be successful, and that could end up being somebody who's a little bit more of a distributor, not necessarily the run-first mentality / hold the ball for 1,000 years mentality that Justin Fields has, and that is Fernando Mendoza. At number 3, we have the Tennessee Titans. The dream pick is Ruben Bain Jr., but I was talking about this on the Rookie Watch series, and That is honestly the series I put the most effort into, the most amount of work by a significant margin. And I mean, apart from doing my analysis on the side, but in terms of doing it specifically week by week for a certain video, is the most amount of work for the least amount of return. And it is the one that allows me to kind of talk a little bit about the state of the rookie class and looking at how the vision for the future, which I think is super duper crucial. But I do see a wide receiver 3 and essentially a wide receiver 2 on the roster right now with Jim DK as well as Elikai Omaner. So what is missing is a true one. Now, the question is, can you roll the dice until 35? And I mean, there's a top 6 in this class that's pretty solidified. I would say Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate, Denzel Boston, Casey Concepcion, and Chris Bell. That's like the consensus top 6. Now, you could toss in some wild cards in there, but it's a pretty strong top 6. My issue with rolling the dice until 35 is, one, you're not looking for, hey, we have someone who's like a fringe one, so maybe they step into that role and we can get another fringe one. You need a true one. Now, on top of that, I also believe that since the wide receiver position has translated so quickly and so seamlessly from college to the NFL, I think there's going to be a new level of emphasis on what they provide in terms of that return, which is going to boost their value even more than it already is. And which means that I don't think we're going to see one of these guys who could be considered a one there in the second round. Now, we got to see how Jordan Tyson is in terms of the medicals. He's had several injuries over the past few years, not connected. So again, maybe just had some bad luck here and there, but got to do some medical analysis on Jordan Tyson. I will not be able to have ever have access to that, nor am I a doctor, so I'm not going to make any claims. But all I'm saying is, if there's a trail of breadcrumbs, maybe it's leading somewhere. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe some birds have already eaten the rest of it because it didn't really go anywhere important. But Jordan Tyson is going to be my selection here at number 3. I can't, with the current state of where y'all are at, I can't with a good conscience just say, we're going to see if we can wait and snipe a true wide receiver one at the top of the second. That's just not the modern NFL. Too many teams are looking, especially because certain wide receiver ones are aging. A lot of teams are starting to look for that next part or that next number one to be the face of their receiving core. Speaking of a team that could be looking at that, that is the Cleveland Browns at number 4 overall. It's a very tough team to kind of draft for at this moment because, I mean, people will say, you got to go quarterback. I respect that. Honestly, going to probably do that in the first place. Dante Moore was born in East Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken. I think he ended up going to high school in Michigan, so in Detroit. So for those of y'all who are saying, oh, no, I mean, from Detroit, I think it's high school days in Detroit, grew up in around Cleveland. So I'm going to be going that route. But if the quarterbacks are taken, let's just say Fernando Mendoza, as well as, Dante Moore, or if Dante Moore returns, Ty Simpson goes in the first 2 picks. And you're sitting here, and I think if Dante Moore returns, which personally I think he should. I mean, we're at the NIL era. I always love to see quarterbacks come into the NFL the most pro-ready. Then I think Lenore Sellers will be returning to school. Sam Levitt, same thing. John Mateer. There's a lot of quarterbacks who honestly should return to school and just get better. Like, 1 year off your NFL career at this point in terms of the money doesn't really do too much. If you can end up having a more successful NFL career, get paid, $1 million instead of 2.5, and that's on the very, very high side, then I think it's a worthy investment. Now you run the risk like Drew Aller, but at the same time, you also have a significant potential reward in, being able to hold your job, being able to compete, etc. So keeping that all in mind, I'm still going to go Dante Moore here. You got to go and upgrade that quarterback position. I don't think the organization believes in Shedeur Sanders. This is not a direct shot at Shedeur. I have my issues with his leadership, but not his talent. He was my number 2 talent-based quarterback in the draft last year. I honestly was shocked that he fell as far as he did. I think it's bullshit. I don't understand. And as much as it puts a smile on my face to see someone get humbled who's all cocky, it was disproportionate to the point where people were saying, oh, the NFL is colluding. It was beyond logical reason based on the talent. So I'm confused about that, but I don't really believe that the Browns are going to be a location that's going to prioritize Shedeur Sanders over a quarterback they might view as an upgrade. based on the fact that Shedeur still is not playing, even though Dylan Gabriel looks like absolute ass cheeks. So, number 5, we have the Miami Dolphins. And honestly, this team easily could be in the Ty Simpson hunt. There's not many other positions that provide the value necessary for me to like feel comfortable at pick number 5. Like Ty Simpson is extremely day one ready. The question is, I guess we need to just find some more escorts in Miami to like just sabotage Tua's pillow or something. When he has a pink eye, the dude's is like an elite quarterback. So maybe we could start colluding and strategizing for that. But it does feel like quarterback is definitely at least in the first 3 rounds territory. And if you're sitting here at number 5, there's 2 routes outside of quarterback that I could see them going. Technically 3. You got Caleb Downs in here, but when you do have someone like Peter Woods who provides the run defense floor and then ends up having his ceiling in terms of his strength as a pass rusher, I don't understand why necessarily it hasn't translated to like actual wins on the field. The whole Clemson team has been extremely up and down, but I'm not a big Clemson guy. Like, I definitely have my reservations. Brian Brzee was somebody. Miles Murphy was someone who I did love. So, there's certain players like that I certainly have an affinity for. But defensive interior-wise from Clemson, I always have my concerns. Even DeMonte Capehart, love him as a pocket buster. But, Peter Woods is the one I have the most amount of confidence in. There are jaw-dropping flashes to him. And this is a team that needs to just continue adding game-changing players. So I'm going to go with that route. It obviously sucks the last defensive interior from Clemson you went after had some other issues outside of just purely his play. But we'll go after Peter Woods here, defensive interior out of Clemson. We're going to pass on the quarterback, which is a hot take, but at the same time, I don't think this team is a quarterback away. I don't think Ty Simpson, after 8 starts, is necessarily going to be, at that point, it will be like 13 starts, will be the answer to all of your problems. And I think personally, if you build your team up well with all the quarterbacks that should be returning, you're going to be in a much better spot next year. And because I think the house is going to get cleaned, there's going to be a little bit of a longer leash on the new organization. I think this is going to be the best possible opportunity for y'all to be able to build the foundation and then end up capitalizing on value the next year. At number 6 for the New York Giants, not many wrong ways to go about it here. Cordell Flott ended up having a bad week this past week. I've been notorious for going Mansour Delane, even with people talking about Cordell. And again, I respect it. Cordell's had some fantastic performances this year for what we expected of him. But if I'm not mistaken, he's also an LSU corner. So it'd be kind of cool to be able to pair him up with Mansour. I just always believe in Cordell as somebody who should be your corner 3, steps up to the corner 2 role in case of injury. And especially with how pass heavy the NFL is, I think it's a smart move in a pretty top heavy and kind of like top and back heavy corner class, because the mid range is a little bit awkward. And for the Giants, where I see them needing talent is wide receiver, which I absolutely think if you end up wanting to target like Carnell Tate here, it's not a bad idea. They're bringing in Deontay Johnson, which to me would be much closer to a Mekhi Lemon role. But at the same time, like, who gives a shit? They're just testing out free agents. It's not like they're able to test out prime Julio Jones. But, Carnell Tate, definitely an option there. Mekhi Lemon, Denzel Boston, if he ends up getting red hot, perfectly reasonable. Like, Carnell would be the player that I'm looking at wide receiver-wise. Caleb Downs is possible, but I just think the value is really good elsewhere. You can talk about Arvell Reese, but personally, it's between Carnell and Mansour Delane. The problem that I have, because I was ready to pull the trigger on Mansour, the problem I do have is Cordell is actually having those moments of brilliance. We'll see if the consistency continues, because right now it hasn't. But Jackson's throwing to practice squad receivers, and just like I was talking about with the Titans, it's a big risk and a huge drop off, in my opinion, to go from these guys who are legit ones, or at least really high end 2s who could end up easily being 1s, and then dropping to the wide receiver 3/4 territory, where it kind of feels like you're bringing in a lot of very similar talent to what you have. I think the best thing to do would be to invest in both your run game as well as your receiving with Carnell Tate. And you might say, running game, Carnell Tate, what? He's a great run blocker. I am shocked that not enough people talk about it. His ability to run block has just transcended any normal progression from year to year. 2024, it was not that good. It wasn't. And then all of a sudden this year, I don't know what happened. He locked in and he has done such a good job. Maybe Hartline spent more and more time with him one-on-one to be like, hey, this is how you end up being a complete wide receiver. But fuck it. I mean, they've done such a good job. I mean, they have. And so shout out to Carnell Tate, someone who I really, really wanted to see take that final step. And he progressed as a route runner. He progressed as a blocker. He progressed with his hands, contested catch situations. He's become a true one. And that is beautiful to see. Like, he can play every single part of the field. Like, if you want to say you should take him over Jordan Tyson, I'm not going to blame you. And that's coming from, again, someone who is a skeptic. Again, I didn't expect for him to grow at this rate. Some people did, and power to you for believing that. I would prefer to be pessimistic and then get pleasantly surprised than kind of the other way around, which a lot of players, unfortunately, end up kind of doing to us, especially in the quarterback room this year. But at number 7 for the Baltimore Ravens, this is going to be a fun one because this team needs help in a lot of places. But an area that I think they could really use some assistance on is having someone who's a dominant edge rusher. You have right now Mike Green being the number 1 in terms of the amount of pass rush reps, and he's not necessarily doing all too well. But the biggest issue is this team's getting gashed in the run game as well. So I'm going to do something that is going to provide both an extremely strong edge in the run game, someone who could set the edge, throw tackles, but also provide the ability to rush the passer from multiple locations. And I'm praying that you guys end up having a defensive mind that's smart enough to use him properly. We're going to go Arvell Reese, defensive lineman / linebacker, or edge rusher / linebacker out of the Ohio State University. It's a ballsy move, but I think that this is the correct move for the team. I mean, the whole entire prowess of the Baltimore Ravens defense is just disintegrated. And it's time to at least try to get it back. At number 8 for the Las Vegas Raiders, if Ty Simpson's here, you run it in. There's an alternate universe where I ended up going after Ty Simpson at number 5. And if that were the case, I think like Arvell Reese would have been here rather than like I would have probably still went Carnell Tate. And then maybe for the Ravens would have went Peter Woods and then ended up having like Arvell Reese available. And, if that were the situation, I'd honestly probably just go Caleb Downs, best player available. But we got blessed in terms of, well, I guess I blessed us. I don't plan this out. It's supposed to be a live mock draft. Like, you're sitting here in the situation room on draft day. I've done enough drafts to where I feel like, okay, I know the players. I know the positions. Like, I have over 290 players fully graded out. So it's like, I feel pretty damn comfortable. But it is kind of like fun to be sitting here like on draft day. I'm not going to try to plan ahead because that ruins the fun for you. It ruins the fun for me. And you guys get to see the process, which is the best part of this, because I think people who end up making pre-recorded mock drafts, they take a lot of the personal aspect out of it. And if it means my channel grows slower, it is what it is. This is a lot more fun for me. It makes it a lot more sustainable. And I know that you guys love it. But at number 9 for the Arizona Cardinals, I'm going to get a lot of love for this one. Because I've neglected right tackle for y'all for a billion years at this point, because there's only one guy I truly believe in as like the right tackle capable player. And again, that's CC needs an updated grade this year. I'm seeing him in person on Saturday. So that's going to be a huge thing for me. I'm just so excited to see Miami come to SMU. I'm so excited. I mean, like, I feel like a golden retriever when their parent comes home, just thinking about I'm going to be able to see Miami up close and personal. So you guys will get some content for that. Follow over on the Twitter, especially if you guys want to see some stuff there. But I do think Spencer Fano, even though I now have a little bit of concerns of him as a right tackle, I do think, especially with the guidance of like Paris Johnson, you can end up being in a much better spot. The biggest issue I have with going tackle early for y'all is the tackle you're having success with right now in Paris Johnson is statistically, measurably a freak. These tackles in this class are not that. So that's kind of like where the pause is Is his organization going to value measurables to that degree? And if they are, then that disqualifies a lot of these players. So Makai and Red Sea, I definitely want to hear y'all's opinion on it. I do know I have a lot of other Cardinals fans out there. I apologize for not being able to name y'all off the top of my head. But number 10, Cincinnati Bengals. Edge rusher definitely on the market. However, by the way, I'm not going for an edge rusher. I just need to explain because I know a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, I mean, edge is a big deal." First off, this edge class is very solid. Not for the Bengals. If you look at what the Bengals prioritize, it's high RAS and measurables. That's just what y'all do. And there's like TJ Parker, short arms, and also from Clemson, maybe going to be a little bit of like inner organizational pause on going after Clemson edge rushers after whiffing on the last one, especially since TJ is still growing and developing. Keldrick Falk, God only knows what he's going to do, but he's a tweener right now. So he's not going to test out like a top end RAS player. If he does, then that's awesome. But I also he's up in the 280 range again after being down to 275 or 275. He was up to 288, then he was 275, then 270. Now he's 285. Bro, stop with the eating disorder, bro. Just choose a weight and stay there. I swear, stop binging and then gorging. I don't know what brother's doing, but yeah, I mean, regardless, he doesn't necessarily fit. David Bailey, short arms, 250. We'll talk about him. He's not being drafted probably. I don't know if he's going to be drafted in today's video. If you guys are wondering why, it has nothing to do with the talent. Go look at what he ended up assaulting and battering a camera guy. I don't know the full story, but I ended up going on a full rant about it in the stock report. You guys can go see my full opinion there, or maybe I'll go on a rant in this episode. You guys might get a treat. Cassius Howell, sub 31-inch arms, not with the measurables, also sub 250. Romello Height, DPR, undersized, 240. So measurables out the door. And then on top of that, you guys need an actual edge rusher. LT Overton. I mean, he's probably going to have relatively shorter arms. He's 6'2.5" to 6'3". And then, I mean, he also is just not worth the 10th overall pick. Bottom line, I want to give you guys an introduction. Edge is a good move for the Bengals, just not in this draft class. What you guys need is a true corner too. Cam Taylor-Britt, not the long-term option, right? There's the moments where he will get healthy scratched. It's pretty obvious. Mansour Delane is well worth this pick. I just wanted to go ad nauseum going into why I don't believe in the edge core, because it introduces some of y'all who are looking for the first time at these edges, with the Bengals being higher in the draft, in the draft position for a while. Edge wasn't really the priority at that point, but it definitely is a good time to kind of discuss in terms of how it fits with your organization, what you guys should be expecting. At number 11 for the Los Angeles Rams, I mean, quarterback would be the normal way to go. Lenoris just at number 11 is too high. Unfortunately, Lenoris is just, I mean, he's had his flashes, and you guys know me. He was my number one player coming into the year. And I thought that Clemson game showed everything I was kind of looking for in terms of what I get excited for this year. He needs to go back to school and transfer. I really hope he transfers to Miami. That's just my thought process there. Sam Levitt, not worth it. Garrett Nussmeier, not worth it. John Mateer, we'll see. I mean, he has a plus on my board right now. If you guys are new to me, that means that it's a pre-injury grade. If he ends up getting back to full health because he's playing unhealthy right now, then he could end up being able to be at least somewhat considerable here in the top 15. But for right now, and again, that's another reason why I think he should return, not the case. Jaden Mayava, not the case. Sorsby, people are going to glaze him, not the case. So you guys I'm basically painting the picture here. People are trying to glaze the Rams for fleecing Atlanta because Atlanta's having a high pick. Unless the Rams are in a desperate position for quarterback, I honestly think they'll try to use that and flip it for next year first. Because it's just, this isn't the class to assist them in that category. Mansour Delane would have been great. Not the case anymore. But I do think I need to start blending my board with a little bit more realism. And that realism right now is looking at CC as a potential tackle. So we're going to go with that for the Los Angeles Rams there. At number 11, it is a very bad tackle class. I hate to say it. It just is not the class if you need a tackle unless you want to take one early. I feel like this is a little bit of a reach, but at the same time, if you're able to make it work with Francis on the inside, I think that you're going to be perfectly fine because he's a really good player. I just wonder if you're getting the value of a top 15 pick with Francis at tackle. Again, very excited to be proven wrong about that. I get to test out with my eyes this week. So I'm excited to be able to see whether that maintains, my position maintains, but we'll leave it there. At number 12 for the Washington Commanders, I'm almost ready to just go all in on Caleb Downs. I know my Vikings fans are like salivating at the opportunity to get Caleb Downs. Downs is a fantastic player. Here's my one thing with the Commanders. Dan Quinn is just one of those coaches that I trust to maximize the defensive talent. So I don't necessarily believe he needs to go after Downs. Areas of improvement, edge rusher for sure. But again, this is also a class in round 2. I feel very comfortable with like a lot of the options there. So I don't feel overwhelmingly like needy in that category. A lot of people will say boundary corner. Personally, I think you should try to put Mikey back at boundary corner and keep him there full time. I don't like him in the nickel. He just performs better on the boundary, in my opinion. And feel free to counter that. But like statistically, I track what he does as well, and it's pretty obvious. He seems more comfortable as a boundary corner, which is just very intriguing for obviously how he came into the NFL. But also, excuse me. Also, I'm not a huge fan of the options on the table. Like Keith Abney is pretty close to Trey Amos, but he's not as athletic. And personally, I just wonder if he's going to be worth the top 12 overall pick with that athletic foundation. So the area I'm looking at is wide receiver. It's a very long way of getting to wide receiver here. And I love KC Concepcion. He's now had 2 80-yard punt return touchdowns on the year. That's going to be taken up by Jalen Lane's value. Like that's going to take up some Jalen Lane value because I think he's going to be I think he's a great returner. And so I'm going to disqualify KC, who I was talking about in that top 6, from the equation. Denzel Boston's a true one, a deep threat. He's built to the 9. I mean, he's really well built, 6'4", 210. Like he's a damn good player. Washington wide receivers know how to block. I'm very pessimistic of Washington wide receivers. Just going to be honest. I'm not a huge supporter of them in any way, shape, or form. So for me to give credit to Denzel Boston, I ended up giving credit to Rome Odunze, even though it's a little bit lower than some people thought he was a blue chip player. Rome Odunze shifted how I graded wide receivers because he was such a good blocker at Washington that I was like, I feel wrong not having this be an aspect of how I grade a wide receiver. So Denzel Boston, I got respect for Washington. Again, not a fan of their receivers, but Chris Bell's the guy I'm looking at. And again, this is someone who I'll be able to watch in, I believe, exactly a month when he comes to SMU. So this is going to be great to see. But this guy has been on an A.J. Brown. Some people want to throw out the Xavier Leggett comp. I did not have a high grade on Xavier Leggett. Again, I have my misses. I'm not trying to say, I'm wide receiver guru number 1 in the world. Please don't take that as like how I'm trying to describe this. But I'm saying that I love Chris Bell as a wide receiver. He is my number 3 wide receiver in the class by a very, very close margin. And I did not like Xavier Leggett. So there's just aspects of Chris Bell's game that I think translate so much better. And the deep speed's there. Obviously, you have some A.J. Brownness to him in terms of the 220-pound build. He's an amazing route runner. I think he can work on the nuances of like kind of making the defensive back guess what he's going to do, but he's just been so fluid that most DBs can't handle that. And then after the catch, this guy turns the Jets on. I'm going to go for a curveball and go Chris Bell. And yes, this is a 2-rounder. We'll be picking it up, but I mean, first off, I haven't yapped a ton today, but secondly, and more importantly, this is where a lot of people focus their time and energy. So I want to be able to at least set the table on the players that you guys care a little bit more about. For the Vikings here at number 13, God forbid Caleb Downs slips this far, but he is my number 1 player in the class. He has not been fully updated for this year. He's had some slip ups this year, so maybe he ends up being like top 10, but it does factor in positional value. And I think he is just, when he calms down and just plays like in the box, in the nickel, and even over in like free, like he plays everywhere very well. As long as he's calm, he ends up playing the game at a super high level. It's BPA. Sometimes you just can't pass on it. At number 14 for the Houston Texans, a lot of people want to go Jeremiah Love, and he has been fantastic this year, getting red hot at the perfect time. I'm not ready to go that route yet because the offensive line is not there. Ariante Ursery looks really solid in terms of what you should be expecting from him this early. He was a developmental tackle, and he's showing more promise now than he probably should, especially for the fact that the rest of the offensive line's garbage. He's been the brightest point. Not a bright point, but the brightest. And so I think it's a necessity to go after offensive line. Vega Ione is very possible for this team, just a super high floor guard, and you just kind of cancel out any doubt on the left side of the offensive line that you can have issues. I do know that, the Texans value measurables, so Caden Proctor definitely going to be somebody that would probably be on their radar. I don't think that's a good idea. Again, we're talking about a left tackle to right tackle conversion for a raw offensive tackle. It's very dangerous. You could try to wait till round 2 for sure. Like, my thing is Trevor Goosby is the dark horse here. He is somebody who has taken a huge step this year. And granted, it's only been at left tackle. That's something that does bother me because he did have some struggles last year, ends up taking a massive leap at left tackle this year. At the same time, he was struggling at left tackle last year. So I would love to see, and I think if he ends up coming out this year, going to like the Senior Bowl circuit and then being able to see him take reps at right tackle is going to be super duper crucial. Because if you end up seeing that the footwork is still there, because I believe his first game was at right tackle, replacing Cam Williams, then it's going to be a much more seamless transition than a lot of other tackles that you try to transition left to right. And if that's the case, Trevor Goosby has the measurables. He fits the athletic profile that the Texans go after, and he has the ability to fit the role that you need. In a very thin tackle class, I think that's worth taking the shot on. And again, this is coming from somebody who really didn't believe in Trevor Goosby coming into this year. I've seen the progression, and that's what I like to see. Maybe he's not the 14th best player to me. Some other people he is. But I do see the progression for how early he is in his career. And I see the athletic traits there. I see the talent development with the finer details there. And assuming if you end up taking the same approach that you did with Ariante Ursary, you could end up seeing earlier returns on Goosby than maybe some other teams. Again, fingers crossed if you end up copying and pasting what you did with a very similar athletic, really good measurables guy who's developing player in Ursary. 15, Dallas Cowboys. Jeremiah Love is what a lot of people are going to want to see. I'm not going to stop myself from going that route, but I will say you look over the Cowboys' track record in recent memory, they've neglected running back, and they've gotten really good returns for it. If you're going to think that Jerry Jones is going to control this organization to the point where he's going to say, oh, no, I need a running back, you very well might be right. But Jerry Jones, as much of a hard ass and a hard head as he can be, he's not necessarily a dumbass, right? Like, he is very, very smart as a businessman, and business people recognize trends. And business people also realize that, hey, if we don't need to spend a lot to get a lot in this one spot, and we probably need to spend a lot to get a lot in some other spots, probably should spend a lot in the other areas and end up doing what we do best, which is manufacture solid value out of value running backs. I'm just going to put that out there. You might disagree. Respect to you for doing that. But I'm just going to throw that out there. Anyways, I do think corner is an underrated position for this team to target. Trevon Diggs just has not been himself. There's just not really a pipeline of high-end corner talent on this team. And again, it's a very top-heavy corner draft. Defensive line absolutely needs help, but I do know at 31, 47, there's going to be talent there. Same thing with the edge rushing group. I'm going to do my first curveball pick at corner for the Cowboys this year. And I'm going to go Avion Terrell here. I think you just need to get a tone setter. And Avion, 5'11", he's a little bit undersized, but at the same time, he is someone who's extremely sticky in coverage, a top-end athlete, and he's not afraid of a physical differential. And that's super crucial when you end up playing against A.J. Brown, when you're going to be going up and playing against Carnell Tate multiple times a year, Chris Bell. Like, you need someone who's not afraid to get physical. And I think that's what Avion Terrell does. Now, you could go after Colton Hood. They're pretty much identical in terms of height. Colton Hood a little bit on the heavier side. Abney just doesn't have the speed that would make me feel comfortable with him in a one-on-one race with Chris Bell as well as Carnell Tate. And I don't trust the safety help for the Cowboys to make up for that. So I'm going to go after somebody who, in my opinion, could end up helping out the most. That's Avion Terrell. Pick number 16 for the Carolina Panthers. Also another team that Avion Terrell's a dark horse need for. So, definitely keep your mind open to that. I'm having Jermod McCoy return in this if you guys did not pick up on that earlier. With me not really mentioning him. It's not because I don't like Jermod McCoy. It's because he's a true junior that's literally not playing this year. Just got to throw that out there. But this is a team that's a dark horse for wide receiver. I think also for Kenyon Sadiq at tight end. My only issue is, Kenyon's been unreliable in terms of his hands. 4 drops in the year. But more importantly, you look at the tight ends who have come into the league and had a ton of success early. They do have unique traits like Kenyon Sadiq can bring to the table, but they were very, very productive in college as well. So seeing a drop off in terms of like the respective role to production rate, because Kenyon Sadiq was not tight end 1 last year. He's the clear tight end 1 now, and he's barely outproducing what he's done last year. It is a little bit worrisome. Just going to put that out there. To take him at number 16. And I love Kenyon Sadiq. But again, I just have to end up framing it so you guys understand like where my head is at right there. But other positions this team could end up going after, technically speaking, if you do want to have a Taylor Moton replacement, this could be where you start looking in this draft class. I would not say this high, but boundary corner still could be the case. Colton Hood, in terms of the physicality and like the fluidity, could end up working very well as a JC Horn at number 2 corner. I might want to do that because again, this is just, good. We got Julian Neal in this. He's a heavier, bulkier corner in terms of how he plays. 6'2", 210. There you go. He'll be someone that we might end up taking at the end of 2, but there's just not many players in this class that I think provide that level of talent. And Colton Hood's been on a massive upward trajectory this year. Comes into Tennessee super late. We're going to go with it. I don't trust the value there in 2. I don't trust the value in 3. If you're going to try to go for a true corner 2, this is where you need to start throwing your darts. And you're already paying one of your corners like, I think, over $25 million a year. So, it's a way to consolidate some funds as well. You have a cheap corner who is going to be extremely talented on a multi-year deal. At number 17 for the Chicago Bears, lots of talent available. I'm going to go after Jeremiah Love. I know that DeAndre Swift has done so well, but if you're sitting here at number 17, based on the running backs from the first and second round actually having solid impacts on their respective rosters, I do think that the NFL is not going to be afraid of taking running back early. And if you guys don't want Jeremiah taken here, he's going with the next pick. So feel free to do with that as you will. But we're going to go Jeremiah Love for the Bears at number 17. At number 18 for the Chiefs, we're going to go after the Kenyon Sadiq hype train. It's definitely scary. Like, it has its risk, but I would end up saying it also has its potential reward. If Kenyon Sadiq was having an all-star season, he'd be going in the top 10. So we're going to take the risk here. We're going to go Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon for the Chiefs. 19 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Wide receiver like Mekhi Lemon wouldn't be a horrible move. It's good to see Roman Wilson have some actual talent for once. Again, the quarterback situation I'm talking about right now, like Lenoris, he's not going to work here. We haven't developed quarterback talent in a long time. I hate to say it. Lenoris needs years on the bench. He needs it. He needs development. It's his processor that's the problem. And that's something that you think, naturally, with time, ends up being like repairable and it ends up growing year over year. And it hasn't. It's stagnated, if not kind of taken a step back. So he's somebody who I highly doubt comes out, but we'll still have him in this. This is just not this right situation for him to walk into and end up having success. I just don't think so. So for the Steelers, I think the right move is to go after a true wide receiver 2. We're already spending over $30 million a year on one of our wide receivers. Outside of him, Calvin Austin, I believe he's on a contract year. On top of that, not necessarily the most reliable weapon in the world. Love Calvin Austin, but as a 2, no. Roman Wilson, he's had one game of success. Can't really bank on that. So I'm looking at the options here, and it's between Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston. And I think Denzel is a bit more talented after the catch than DK is. I don't look at Denzel Boston as kind of like the Nick Harbor of this class, like the just churn and go in a straight line. Denzel Boston is a lot more built to be a true one, a true X, and it's not something that will really overlap in terms of the skill set with DK, in my opinion. So we're going to go after Denzel Boston here. And again, the Steelers love blocking. It's what we do. We're the AFC North. So we're going to go after Denzel Boston there. You need to continue enforcing a top-tier receiving group, and we've done a very good job historically with doing so. Denzel Boston, the choice there. At number 20 for the Cleveland Browns, first pick, Dante Moore. Second pick here at number 20, could go offensive line. You know, Caleb Lamu would not be a bad option. Would not try to put Caden Proctor here. But I'm looking at Mekhi Lemon. This team needs receiving talent, and we're going to give it to him. We're going to try our best to try to fix up the offensive line there in round 2, but we're going to go after BPA. Again, Mekhi I have above Denzel Boston, just a different role entirely. So I'm pretty happy with the Steelers kind of just getting a more reliable X receiver to where DK can kind of be thriving in the role that's perfect for him, and Denzel can, you know, do a little bit more of the clear outs and everything else. But Mekhi Lemon, fantastic receiver, going to the Browns at number 20. 21 for the Niners. I just hate to be so boring. So I'm going to change it up. I usually go Caden Proctor for this team. I think it's a fantastic fit. So do not get me wrong, but you can go Isaiah World in round 2/3. I mean, I would try to trade back, but again, there's no trades in this one. And then end up getting someone to play guard in the short run, play left tackle in the long, who has a ton of potential. Like if you want to go that route, let's do that. But I do want to give my fans who are Niners fans a little bit of a taste of something fresh, because I'm a little bit tired of it too. We're going to go TJ Parker, edge rusher out of Clemson here at pick number 4. It is a little bit scary. Another guy who's a little bit like low in terms of the pass rush efficiency, but great build at 265. He has all the technique in the world. Like he does have more moves than Michael Williams had coming into the NFL. And I think with Robert Saleh, who ends up making it so edge rusher friendly, this will end up netting positive for you guys. And again, trading for Keon White, it's a pretty much a nothing burger. You're trying to reinforce a pretty battered roster, and kind of shows that you guys see at least some value in getting more edge rusher talent on the roster. At number 22 for the Los Angeles Chargers, this is a quick and easy one. It's Vega Ione. Interior offensive line is a must for this team. Vega has been the most consistent interior offensive lineman in the country, so we're going to rock it there with him. Number 23 for the Los Angeles Rams, I'm going to wait on quarterback. That's going to come to bite me in the ass, isn't it? We'll potentially wait, because I think the Rams are the perfect situation for Lenoris. They have him just sit for a year or two, kind of Jordan Love the whole thing. And at 23, if I'm not mistaken, that might have been where Jordan Love was taken to. This is where you roll the dice on the player with the physical talent. Remember, Jordan Love, 13 touchdowns, 13 picks his final year at Utah State. That's what you're looking for with Lenoris. Sellers is like, well, decision making is not really there, but we got the top tier arm talent. We got great mobility. It just feels right. It feels right for the Rams. They already upgraded the offensive line. Let's upgrade the quarterback as well and have Lenoris sit for a while. I will end up, and guys, please feel free to comment on this as well. The comment with, like, if you guys end up seeing a comment in the comment section that's saying, hey, have Lenoris return. If you believe in that, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, comment, hey, I think you should keep him in this. And then those of y'all who want to have him like stay in the mock draft, feel free to vote on it there. I'll end up taking a peek at that tomorrow and see how it goes. At number 24 for the Detroit Lions. Honestly, left tackle at this point. Not a bad idea to go after. Now, Caleb Tiernan's a guy who I like more than Caden Proctor. I think Caleb Lamu's more of a guard, but still a very solid option. This team has thrived with Penei Sewell, who had suboptimal arm length. Now, I think Penei Sewell's, I think, been the highest graded offensive tackle I've ever graded. It was him and Evan Neal, but we all ended up fucking up on Evan Neal. God forbid. Oh, PTSD. But I would say Tiernan's pretty damn high up there for me. He does have less of a mauler mentality to him than Sewell obviously did. Sewell was an absolute wrecking ball. But none of these guys have that wrecking ball mentality. Like I'm looking at Lamu, it's just he just feels more like a guard, and that's just what makes me uncomfortable. Proctor does have the highest ceiling, and he is super duper fun. You think about him playing basically how Skipper is used as a gadget sometimes as well. It does feel like it's a very possible option. And again, we'll see how the left tackle situation plays out for the long haul. But Decker with the I believe it's a shoulder issue could end up being like this could end up saving the Lions from, being really, really uncomfortable with that their tackle position. We'll see what happens. If Caden has to kick into guard for the short term as well, you could easily see that. But this is something where in this class, sometimes you got to take some shots, and Caden Proctor is the one that I go for here. At 25 for the Buffalo Bills, we're going to go linebacker. We're going to make this easy and quick. Edge rusher is possible. Like, I don't want to like short sell this. Like you look at Keldrick Falk, that's certainly a choice. LT Overton, also a really good choice for this team. But I do think that linebacker has been a staple of the Bills that's just not there this year, and I could feel the vacancy. So I'm going to go with Sonny Styles and keep it nice and chalk, which of course screws over the Seattle Seahawks. I'm sorry, guys. But interior offensive line, the right guard spot, definitely something I'd be a little concerned with. Is there any guy who I would trust to be able to play in a zone system like Kubiak? Now, Kubiak could end up being poached for like the Titans head coaching job. We'll see then if you guys want to maintain the zone blocking system. But Caleb Lamu is exactly the player who I would dream of for the Seahawks. Boundary corner too, you could absolutely discuss it. I already talked about this earlier. I'm not a fan of Jermon McCoy coming out this year. He's a true junior anyways. I highly doubt he does. But the next players would be Keith Abney, Julian Neal, and then Davison Igbinosun. I don't feel like those three are very applicable here. Now, edge rusher is a thing because Boy is up for a contract and you can end up sniping some good talent. But I personally think at 58, I'd rather roll the dice there. Like wide receiver is an option here. You look at Concepcion, he could be really, really fun. But, personally, I think there's a lot of really good receivers in this class. And I don't really see Concepcion being extremely valuable for the Seahawks. I think someone like Nick Harbor, Chris Brazel, like those guys who can end up playing a Marquez Valdez-Scantling deep threat role would be a little bit more beneficial. And I think it would be a waste of Casey Concepcion's talent. He might still be good, but I feel like I'd be robbing both you guys, the fans, as well as KC, of an opportunity to be his best self. But Caleb Lamu is going to be the selection here out of Utah to play that right guard role. He's a top 15 player for me in the class. You guys took a tackle, moved him to guard last year. Is it realistic for the organization to do something off-brand again? I'm not sure, but you've already seen the returns a bit with Gray Zabel. Could end up seeing it with Lamu as well. 27 for the Denver Broncos. The problem is the two positions they need in tight end and running back are just not here. Center as well. Connor Liu, unfortunately, tore his ACL. He will not be included in this. So I will be going linebacker, and I ended up trading back for this last time. I'm going to go Anthony Hill here. He's coming off an amazing week versus Mississippi State with, I believe it was 9 pressures and 6 stops. He was absolutely everywhere. This guy will end up being a super gadget for you. You guys ended up using multiple rookies this past week that I think it was like cleanup reps as well. But you got no names taking reps, even if they're backups, all right? They should not be on the 53 nor elevated. So Anthony Hill going to be the selection there. Would love to see Vance Joseph utilize the versatility of a 6'3", 240 linebacker who can end up being a pass rusher as well. At 28 for the Buccaneers, Anthony Hill is starting to become my favorite for them. But looking at the edge rushers, again, some of you guys, if you are new, you'll see like what's up with Malachi Lawrence. Huge fan of his game. I have the asterisk now, which means that he's intended to fall because he's been in like the top 10 in terms of true pass rush win rate. He's down to 14, and then I think he's at like 18 or 20 for like overall win percentage. So I just personally want to at least put that buffer in there, but he's been averaging like 4 pressures a game, like every single game except for Cincinnati, which is like people are glazing the offensive tackles there, so it's going to be a tough one. And then I think it was like week 1, he's had 4 or 5 in every single game, so I can't really like crap on him for it. But again, when you end up seeing a lot of other players be a little bit more of the trend up versus the trend down, he's still over 35% pass rush win rate. But it's still worth mentioning. And I always keep my board blended with what I think the consensus is looking at to give you my twist on a mock draft rather than, me just hijacking it. But I do think edge rusher is the right way to go. David Bailey, super quick note. I will not be taking him in the first. I mentioned it quickly earlier, but ended up assaulting and ended up battering a camera guy. So not a fan of that, no matter what the reasoning is. And the reasoning I understand definitely makes it even worse than if it were semi-justifiable. So I'm just kind of out on him as a first-round talent at the moment. Outside of that, the Buccaneers, I do think wide receiver is an underrated position. Chris Godwin continuously is not super healthy. Mike Evans out again. Like KC could be an amazing weapon here. Back-to-back first rounds wide receiver sounds a little crazy, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Linebacker is not crazy either. It's a good class, but CJ Allen has taken massive steps forward. I just don't think it's super realistic. God, this is a weird spot. Guard is very, very applicable for this team. Oh, we're going to go edge. I'm going to throw a crazy one here. I don't think that the measurables are going to be very optimistic for Cassius Howell, but he is a very, very talented edge rusher, and his run stop rate is very deceptive. He is strong. He holds the edge well. This is somebody who you need to take a shot on. So I normally go after R. Mason Thomas, but I'm going to go after Cassius Howell this time. At number 29 for the New England Patriots, they're in an amazing situation. They're kind of fire sailing the fat on their roster, kind of just leaning out in terms of, getting dead weight off. And I think that's a great move for you guys. You look at the edge rushers that you guys have brought in, and the ones that are having success are not the ultra large ones, i.e. Keldrick Falk is just kind of like an awkward player in that aspect, LT Overton. So I do feel uncomfortable with the idea of going after an edge rusher for you in the first round. Wide receiver wise, like I like a lot of players. Hey, Omar Cooper's in here. I like a lot of the players that are available. Honestly, Nick Harber's kind of a crazy option. Like Chris Brazel's a great fit for the Patriots to develop that deep threat capability. Like Casey Concepcion definitely at least gets me intrigued. There's not many other positions I feel very comfortable with in terms of the return on investment in the first. So edge, not there. Wide receiver is. And, the player I'm looking at who's a dark horse here is Nick Harber. He ended up at least getting his drop rate down, but he is 6'5", 235, and he is an elite deep threat. There are always players that get taken absurdly high compared to where they should. I think Nick Harber, with the skill set he has, because he's not a bad route runner, and the speed he's going to possess, which I think will be sub 4.3, I think you got to pair that up with one of the most pinpoint elite deep throwers in the entire world in Drake May. So we're going to go after Nick Harber there for the Patriots. At number 30 for the Philadelphia Eagles, and yes, this is 2 rounds. I need to speed my ass up. Eagles, it's an intriguing spot, like tight end, possible if you end up seeing Sadiq fall. Right tackle, possible if you end up seeing someone like Gooseby here. I don't think World is worth it at this point. Tiernan doesn't have the measurables. Corner 2, Abney's not bad at this point. Pretty high zone coverage grade. My only problem with Abney is I'm a little bit worried about the athletic traits. And that's the big concern, like at the moment, is apart from Igbinosun, there's not many of them that have that athletic trait that possess a lot of the skill sets that you guys tried to target. Like Malik Muhammad's possible. Did come off a pretty bad game this past week, unfortunately, but definitely somebody to keep an eye on maybe at late round 2 if he gets there. It's tough. Like Chris Johnson, I'm going to trust Marina on this. She saw like a figure saying he might be 4.55. I think Keith Abney's like a 4.51 probably when he tests. Julian Neal kind of feels the same way. So Just very uncomfortable for that corner spot to where I feel like the only position where you're going to get true value is the edge spot. And you could go Keldrick Falk to maximize value and have him be basically Brandon Graham. And then when you go into the even front, you can end up playing him as a heavy D end. Um, Honestly, it's not a bad idea. Like Joshua Joseph is going to be a little bit more that outside linebacker type. Zion Young, very underrated player, someone who I have a lot of respect for, a lot of love for. The question is what's going to be available at 62. I don't know based on how many teams I skipped edge for, if there's going to be a lot of good value there. So I'm going to go after one of these edge rushers. I do think that with the return of BG, like we're going to see a little bit more of a shift towards even fronts. He's going to be gone after this year, but I do love the idea of at least incorporating parts of that into the system again. And Keldrick Falk is, to some people, is worth a top 5 pick. That seems like good value at 30 to see how you can work them into your system. At number 31 for the Dallas Cowboys, our first pick was Avion Terrell, cornerback out of Clemson. Here at number 31, it's between Christian Miller, the defensive interior, which Christian Miller could have been a great pick for the Eagles. I'll put my hand out there and say that, but at the same time, I do think there's more pressing issues for them. But I'm looking at LT Overton for the Cowboys, and you can use them and kick them inside if you need to, but this guy's just reliably just valuable on a down by down basis, and he provides the run defense floor. I'm going to go after him there at number 31. Would have been my point. Like either one of Keldrick Falk and Overton would have been my pick at number 32 for the Colts. So it's an awkward position I just put myself into, and it's intriguing. But Lou Amarino, the problem is the corners, once again, do not really mesh with what I believe Lou Amarino is going to be targeting for the cornerback room, because a lot of them mirror what was there before in Indianapolis, not necessarily what has been having success and what is going to be going forward in Indianapolis. Edge is still available, but the problem is the talent that's here. I mean, Zion Young's a good choice. He provides that pass rushing floor, and Lou's defense usually has the 260 plus edge rushers. With how many guys are up for a contract, I do think we might see a rush or a run at the end for edge rushers. We're going to go Zion Young there, edge rusher out of Missouri. At 33 for the Saints, feels good to go Ruben Bain since we don't have an option here. We're going to go after wide receiver at Casey Concepcion. The value's impeccable. I want more of a wide receiver 1, but I just want a damn good wide receiver. I assume Rashid Shaheed's going to be gone, and then Casey Concepcion can provide that same value. It's a clear role to insert him into in the offense. At number 34 for the New York Jets, first pick, Fernando Mendoza. Second pick here at number 34. If you guys get rid of Will McDonald, some people are just saying there's going to be heavy pushes for Will McDonald. Highly advised Joshua Josephs probably is like a third rounder. Some people think of him as a potential first. I'm not there, but definitely open to that. Wide receiver, I do think there's a drop off, but there's still incredible talent here. I would just end up saying, take it with a grain of salt. Jeremy Bernard, a fantastic value in terms of just getting consistency. We'll see if that ends up working out. But maybe going after like Elijah Surratt in round 3 would be a little better and pair him with his quarterback. Like offensive line, I feel good. Running back, if you get rid of Breece Hall, you could be looking at someone like Jonah Coleman to be more of a bruiser to bring in with Braylon out. Well, Braylon's a bruiser. But yeah, shit. That sucks. So offensive line good. Pretty much offense good outside of wide receiver. Then you look at defense. Jarvis Brownlee's been a stud at corner. I feel pretty happy with how you guys are setting up that situationally. Defensive interior, honestly, the values here. We're going to go Christian Miller, defensive interior out of Georgia. Hoping that it's not a bicep tear for... Oh, wait, that's Ed Oliver. I'm tripping. My bad. I thought Quinn Williams been dealing with some stuff as well. Regardless, I do think Christian Miller, BPA, and then you add him into with Quinn Williams for a dynamic duo. That's well worth it at 34. 35 for the Titans. Jordan Tyson was the first pick. And what I was talking about is saying, hey, what about the wide receiver value here? There you go. So feel very happy about getting our true one. Edge rusher, still a big need for this team. Cornerback, honestly, a really big need for this team. And the way you guys end up drafting Jarvis Brownlee, it sucks once again that you guys got rid of him. I think it was far more than just talent that got him out the door. There might have been some friction inside. I'm going to go Keith Abney, the second out of Arizona State. Pair him back up as well, by the way, with his teammate there in Jordan Tyson. But, he overall, I mean, he's had one bad week versus Houston, and Houston is just a weird wild card. But, and even then, he didn't allow a touchdown that game. But Keith Abney is a big physical corner who could end up being a lockdown player versus physical receivers. At 35, that value is something you have to run in. At 36 for the Cleveland Browns, we've taken wide receiver and quarterback with Dante Moore and Mekhi Lemon. I'm going offensive tackle all day, every day. We're going right up the road to, I think it's Easton, Illinois. And we're going to go to Northwestern with Caleb Tiernan, offensive lineman out of Northwestern. I believe in him as a tackle. Some people believe in him as a guard. I think you just have to go after the best talent available. At 37 for the Miami Dolphins, first pick is Peter Woods. I do think you can start looking at the quarterbacks here. John Mateer, you can sit him for a year as he gets healthy. Again, I think he should return to school, but I'm just going to leave that there. Wide receiver, I don't think the value is applicable. I don't think it's going to give you a good return on investment. The corners available, Chris Johnson, not fast enough. Julian Neal is a heavy corner, but he's taken a huge step up this year. Not a fan of him allowing multiple touchdowns on the year, but a lot of people are talking about this guy as a true round 2 corner. At 6'2", 210, it's going to be one of those players that's like, it can't get worse. Arkansas has been a pipeline of like at least competitive corner talent coming to the NFL. And there's not many good corners in this draft. Like, I'm taking a lot of them early because I just don't feel the value is there for the long haul. So we're going to throw the curveball here and go Julian Neal, cornerback out of Arkansas. We're going to just end up developing the defense at this point. And free agency is going to be super telling because that's where you fill a lot of the issues that you have. Julian Neal, though, is going to be the selection right now. Cardell Tate was the first pick for the New York Giants in round number 2. I mean, offensive line interior is not a bad move to go after if you find the value. And you look at Jennings Dunker, it actually kind of lines up with how you guys have drafted before. Like Caden Green's in the mix. I just personally would say maybe let's pump the brakes a little bit on that. Cornerback wise, you got Chris Johnson here. He does not necessarily fit the build. It's between Malik Muhammad and Davison Igbinosun at this point. Malik's been fantastic overall coming back from injury. And then again, had a slip up this past week versus Mississippi State. They have like some dark horse players there. It's a weird, I've been using this term a lot. It's a weird pipeline of talent for the wide receiver position. Igbinosun, in my opinion, is just an absolute fucking baller. He's grabby. I get it. But he is a baller. And I'm going to say Cordell Flott, he's been inconsistent. So, I mean, I could end up just upgrading to the most volatile positions or to the most valuable positions as well with cornerback and wide receiver right here. A lot of people don't love Davison Igbinosun, but I ended up actually updating my grade for him, and he's still a top 32 player for me. Does that mean I'm correct? No, but it's what I honestly believe. And I think it's worth taking the shot on. We're going Davison Igbinosun. At number 39, we got the Baltimore Ravens, who went Arvell Reese in round number 1. Well, that's an intriguing one. Defensive interior here is just crazy value. At this point, you got to take some shots because this team just needs to have a defensive identity again. Just can't put it all on Lamar. We're going to go after one of the best defensive interiors in the entire country, and Caden McDonald, who's 330 pounds, young, and extremely balanced as both a run defender and a pass rusher. At 40 for the Vegas Raiders, Ty Simpson was the first round pick. This is another one that I'm almost going to run in, but CJ Allen's fun. He is somebody who I don't really trust as a coverage linebacker, but he has taken a pretty big step up this year compared to where he was last year. This team needs linebacker help. Safeties, there are some valuable ones down the board as well. I mean, you can say the same about linebacker, but I'll change it up. CJ Allen would end up being a really good enforcer there on the other side of the ball. At 41 for the Arizona Cardinals, first pick Spencer Fano. I promise I did not just take CJ Allen because of this. I honestly was not processing this pick here. This is the reason why I ended up saying I don't like going after anything but Arvell Reese for the Cardinals in the first. But you guys do need more of a dominant X receiver. I listen. And the problem is there's just not many of them here. Like, the more I think about it, should you guys just send your pick there? I mean, should you just go Chris Bell at 9? and then just roll I mean, it's a bad spot to be, in my opinion. It's a bad spot. Just and Chris Brazzell does bring that deep threat capability. He's 6'5", 200, toast downfield. Like, that would be an intriguing choice, and honestly, not one that's a bad one. Ian Strong's a built like an X. You can talk about Elijah Surratt. I just don't think he'll be physically, like, in terms of the measurables and the testing. I don't think he's going to be attractive to NFL teams. He's going to be just like a really, really reliable college wide receiver, maybe running in like the 4.7 range. But Ian Strong could be. He's a top 15 wide receiver for me, 6'3", 211. He already looks good in red as well. But more importantly, he has been a true consistent threat there for Rutgers. Don't know what happened versus Oregon. I don't know if he even registered a catch, but that's just when no. He ended up playing versus Oregon. This past week, he ended up not playing, and that's where KJ Duff went off. Talk about a stud, 6'6" as well as a true sophomore. But I'm going to roll the dice. Let's go Ian Strong here, wide receiver out of Rutgers. He is someone who has a solid release package, good route running ability. He's just a very polished wide receiver all around. At number 42 for the Cincinnati Bengals, first pick, Mansour Delane. Here at 42, this is where we could grab someone like Mateo Uiagalelei, Gabe Akis, or Denai Dennis Sutton. And I'd feel pretty happy with all three of them. Denai is the most popular. Mateo has the biggest ceiling, but is not a great run defender. Gabe Akis has just unbelievably shedded weight. And I do think that's why, or at least he shed body fat. I think it's another reason why he's not necessarily as consistent versus the run. Denai just kind of feels like the guy who, even though he's been statistically on a downfall, the value does kind of add up. Now, he's not going to test through the roof. He's a good athlete. Mateo would be the guy to go through the roof. I don't know what's up with the run stop rate. It's a weird statistic that I don't fully believe in, but like Mateo at 272 is a lean motherfucker. Like, that's the thing. He is lean and mean, but definitely somebody who's taken a step up this year. Quincy Rhodes is that like dark horse, but he's been inconsistent versus SEC competition, and that's a little bit worrisome to me. We're going to go after Mateo Uiagalelei here, edge rusher out of Oregon, and we'll see how that ends up stacking up. At 43 for the Atlanta Falcons, did not take their first pick, and again, people are going to try to shut on the Atlanta Falcons. JPJ is going to be fine. I don't understand. And then you use that pick from the Rams deal to end up trading up for Xavier Watts. You guys are going to be perfectly fine. Do not fret. But boundary corner 2 with Chris Johnson would be intriguing at this point. Same thing with Malik Muhammad. Wide receiver is pretty barren, and you can look at Chris Brazzell as a deep threat. I love going Jeremy Bernard because he actually already has some chemistry with Michael Penix being back all the way to Washington. Might be the move I exercise again. Defensive interior, not a bad idea. You look at someone like Amari Washington, you could finally free up the nose, and I don't know why the hell you have Rick Aroro up there, but it would be a good idea to end up utilizing someone who's an absolute bull rush machine like Amari Washington in said role. I like it, actually. Amari Washington, defensive interior out of Oregon, going there to the Atlanta Falcons. He terrorized Wisconsin's offensive line this past week. At number 44 for the Houston Texans, first pick, Trevor Goosby. And honestly, with the way the tackles go, I feel very happy with that. Second pick here, we could end up actually seeing running back taken by the Vikings. We're going to go Jonah Coleman because there is a pretty big drop-off. I love Damon Claiborne, but Damon's been a little bit inconsistent since injury. At number 45 for the Vikings, Caleb Downs, the first selection. I do think we might end up wanting to just wait for interior offensive line. I'm just deep down, I'm hoping that Trev finally added my boy Lyndon Cooper to the mix. I ended up sending it to you, Trev. You need to put it in there. But does not look like that's the case at the moment. But definitely think that center, Connor Lew not considered coming out in this torn ACL. But center's definitely on the mind for at least the next round or so. Cornerback's certainly possible. I just don't think there's a player. I mean, D'Angelo Pons. That's not bad. Velcro Pons is a fucking stud, all right? Anybody wants to talk crap about Velcro Pons can kiss my ass. The only thing you can complain about is the size. But Isaiah Rodgers is not the biggest guy on planet Earth. And D'Angelo Pons brings a lot of that to the table. This is just drafting a damn good football player. We're going to go D'Angelo Pons, cornerback out of Indiana there. And now you have Caleb Downs and D'Angelo Pons, two of the best Big Ten defensive backs this year, and two of the best defensive backs in the country. 46, Houston Texans again got Jonah Coleman as well as Trevor Gooseby. Very happy with how that ended up panning out. Linebackers an underrated position to target, but I do think the value at defensive interior is kind of too good to pass on. Thank you, Trev, for Cole Brevard. Thank you. I know that I'm like seeing some guys that I've wanted in here that I'm seeing because I like ended up sending him a wish list. So thank you first off, Trev, for at least listening to my dumbass complain and send you guys who I want in here. But he doesn't have Malachi Lawrence in here, does he? That would drive me, that would make me so happy. By the way, Clev Lubin as well. Love him to death. Someone who I put as high as the first. I want to see him like once again. He had a stumble game versus Miami, and I don't know if the NFL is going to value him like that. Just putting that out there. But regardless, I love Clev. I'll take him as high as the first, but no Malachi Lawrence just yet. Regardless, it's not an issue for the Texans. I do think offensive line, you could still try to target somebody like an Isaiah World. I just don't think they're going to go solely on the offensive side. So we're going to go to the defensive side. There's a ceiling to Caleb Banks that there really isn't anywhere else in the class. And you just got to roll the dice in terms of the health. This is the range you do it. At number 47 for the Cowboys, Avion Terrell, LT Overton, the first two selections. And yeah, I mean, you need to look at that. But wide receiver is a good value at this point if GP does not return. Even if GP returns, Jeremy Bernard would be a good pick here. Chris Brazzell could provide even more deep threat capability, like underrated position to target. Now, we already addressed corner. Defensive interior is still on the board here. I have some guys who I would consider. Big Dom Orange has been inconsistent this year. Daryl Jackson has been one of the best run defenders in the entire country. And the problem is at 47, that feels a little shallow to go after just a run defender at this point. Linebacker has been an area where you need some help. Unfortunately, Shamar James has been having a little bit of a growth curve more than what I'd want him to have. So I'm looking at the linebackers available. I love Whit Weeks. Deontay Lawson, if he finally comes in at a good health range, we'll end up seeing him be a really, really good linebacker. Like he ends up, like, you're not going to get someone who's like a high tier pass rusher from him, but if weight-wise, he's about that 235 range. I mean, he's consistent and experienced. He just fluctuates with weight a little bit too much. But we'll take a shot on him here at 47. Like, when healthy, he is one of the better linebackers in the entire country. At 48 for the Panthers, first pick is Colton Hood. I'm just going to go after more edge rusher help. I ended up mentioning him before. It's someone who I love. It's Clev Lubin, edge rusher out of Louisville. Again, a player who I'll see in a month. Someone who can go as high as the mid to high first round. But again, with so many edge rushers, you'll end up seeing them mixed in all sorts of ways. At 250 pounds, it does limit some of the systems that prefer the larger guys. At 49 for the Bears, Jeremiah Love, the first selection. Clev Lubin would have been fun, but doesn't necessarily fit the 6'5 plus, 265 plus for Dennis Allen. Is there any player who does that? Quincy Rhodes. So I think that's going to be the right move here. We could go after offensive line and try to develop somebody. It's just not the class to do it. But Quincy Rhodes is 6'6", 275. He has quick pass rush wins. And I just think you need to coach him up on how to stop the run. But this is somebody who can end up being a game changer if everything hits right. At 50 for the Kansas City Chiefs, first pick, Kenyon Sadiq, running back. I'm not going to address it at this point. I'm going to just trust Brashard Smith and then maybe some value we can get down the board. Quick pass rush wins like Quincy Rhodes would have been nice, but that's not the case. We're not going to get that. Unfortunately, this time, wide receiver at this point, the value is just too damn good. It's just too good. Now, the question is, what role do we want to implement? You have Worthy, who is kind of going to be a little more of a gadget and deep threat. Then you have, of course, the after-the-catch ability of Rashee Rice. And you need the after-the-catch ability. But I think Jeremy Bernard would be a little bit too close to raw in terms of their skill set. I want someone who can be dominant downfield. And that is Chris Brazzell or CJ Daniels for differing reasons. Chris Brazzell is going to be what you've had before in Marquez Valdez-Scantling, what you have in Tyquan Thornton. So this is a very known commodity in your offense. And it's a good opportunity to get it on a relatively solid deal at this point. We're going to go after it. Chris Brazzell II going to the Chiefs here. And you're just revamping your receiving core like crazy, but it's kind of what you need to do. At number 51 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Denzel Boston, the first selection. Cornerback and quarterback are the positions to target. Again, a lot of these quarterbacks are falling. It's just what happens. First off, a lot of these guys are going back to school. Highly doubt Sam Levitt comes out. Highly doubt Matera comes out. Highly doubt that Drew Aller comes out because he still should be able to redshirt medically. Like Mensa, Nico, Bo. There's just a lot of guys who should just return to school. And that leaves a pretty limited group of guys where I feel comfortable in like round 3 with the high pick from Dallas. Like, it's just a way better strategy. Now, the problem is at corner, there's not much. Like, Chris Johnson's a good move. He's just going to be someone who is a little bit more athletically limited. Granted, it's kind of what we're dealing with right now, and we're doing not a good job. But if our players were actually just more talented, I think it would work a lot better. Malik Muhammad, a little bit more talented physically, but I'm going to go after Chris Johnson here, cornerback out of San Diego State. Definitely like the ball skills he brings, but if you bring in Denzel Boston and Chris Johnson, I personally want to give a shot to Will Howard. I think that especially with all the concerns that this draft class has at the quarterback position, it's just not worth spending this high of a pick when you have some other guys that you might feel a bit more comfortable with. At 52 for the Jacksonville Jaguars, first pick of the draft. Some people want some extra edge talent for him. You can do what you want. Dennis Sutton's not a bad choice at this point. But, looking at what could end up assisting you guys the most, I would look at corner here because Travis is only playing a handful of snaps at corner anyways. I think it's kind of an underrated position to go after. Jordan Lewis has been fantastic, but it is an underrated position to target. Why not just have Trav be the true wide receiver 1, end up having him ball out there, and then again, just kind of playing 10 to 15 reps at corner. Like, I feel like that would just be the better strategy. If you have Malik Muhammad into that rotation as well, it just feels better. Like, can we end up getting an upgrade at left tackle? I don't know if these guys are going to be upgrades. That's the problem. That's the big red flag right there. Is like, is this going to be an upgrade? And I don't know if that's the case. So I'm going to go with Malik Muhammad here and have him be into a rotation with Trav and have him end up basically eventually taking over as Trav's role, kind of solidifies in one area or the other. But regardless, I think Malik Muhammad would be a great asset for the long haul. You see him at 6 foot 190 with super high zone IQ, and he's improving each year. Good to see. 53, San Francisco 49ers. First pick, TJ Parker. Would have been nice to go after an edge here, I will admit, but not the case. We were going to go after Isaiah World, who is a left tackle who definitely needs some development. He's not 6'8", he's 6'6" to 6'5", but definitely somebody statistically has not been bad this year, but you could just see it with him. He needs more time to develop, and actually his play style is a bit more fitting of a guard. Really good measurables. This is a guy who's like, you stick him at guard and you end up watching him flourish as a tackle in a year or two. At number 54 for the Chargers, guard Vega Ione was the first selection. You look at the options here. You could go after a blocking tight end and just end up having the nastiest tight end duo going forward. Like, I'm a huge fan of Eli Raridan for that reason, but I do think Raridan's such a solid receiver. You are kind of limiting what you could do with Gadsden as well in that role. But, you could double up an offensive line. I would not blame you for that. I would say going after a nose tackle wouldn't be a bad idea at this point. Like, there's not many areas where, I would say you've shown the need for edge, and the value is impeccable. Again, David Bailey has the personal concerns after assaulting and battering a camera guy, to where I'm like, you got to be a team that really, really is solidified in your brand image right now. And I feel like there's just other players that provide similar value. And I'm just going to go after a Big Ten edge rusher here in Dennis Sutton. It just feels like a better option at that point. You skip the drama, end up going after a player who has still a ton of talent, at least perceived talent. Rams at number 55. CC might go, Lenore Sellers. Could have waited here, end up getting someone like John Mateer, but looking at the corners who are still available, sucks to see Iggy off the board, but I feel very happy with that. Again, Jamal McCoy considered returning in this one. Wide receiver is a position of need. And CJ Daniels, I don't know what it is about him. Like, instantly when I started thinking, like, would CJ work on the Rams? My gut answer, regardless of analysis, was abso-fucking-lutely. And CJ is a top 40 player for me. Like, he's been dominant as a contested catch threat. He's 6'2", 205 pounds, smooth, like, damn good receiver there for the Hurricanes, and someone who I'm going to stick my flag into. So Rams end up fixing the offensive line, their quarterback situation for the long haul, and get a star wide receiver to end up taking off a little bit of the load. At number 56 for the Detroit Lions, first pick, Caden Proctor, very dark horse selection. This is a team that's rooted in their identity. I'm going to allow them to go after David Bailey and kick his ass straight. I know that this is going to be a no bullshit organization that kicks the ass of players that are just not going to adhere to the culture. So I'm going to trust Dan Campbell to get the best out of David Bailey. Kind of similar to what we saw last year with Mike Green, but I think Mike Green was a little bit more athletically talented than David, and David a little bit more successful as an overall player. At 57 for the Buffalo Bills, first pick, Sonny Styles. Second pick here, I am going to just go after old but gold. Boring combination, Dylan Thieneman. Just this year, I don't think he's been as good. I think he's just been at least... Like, I don't understand what's up with these teams' allergies to using this guy as a free safety, but the run defense capabilities have just been a lot worse, in my opinion. But I can't get much worse on the Bills at safety. So we get two massive upgrades there with two players that I really, really like. At 58 for the Seattle Seahawks, Caleb Lamu was the first selection. At this point, edge rusher is a great value. I mean, it really is. And you guys like flexibility, especially in that McDonald defense. Like, R. Mason Thomas, someone who could be a first-round pick, but 34.5-inch arms with Joshua Josephs just feels too good to pass on at this point, especially with the ability to be more of a situational guy with a couple more contracts coming up due after next year. We're going to go after him there at 58. 59 for the Denver Broncos, Anthony Hill, the first selection. I'm going to go after a wide receiver here, and I'm just going to go BPA. Antonio Williams just feels like a Denver Bronco. Again, it feels very similar to what I was saying with CJ Daniels. When you think about it, it's like, which means it's not going to happen. But I like Antonio Williams still. I think that he is a very reliable receiver when healthy. Kind of gets lost in the weeds, but the Clemson offense as a whole has just been lost in the weeds. And when people start studying the talent, when you see Antonio Williams go to the Senior Bowl, I think the talent will end up popping back out as a top receiver in the draft. At 60 for the Buccaneers, first pick, Cassius Howell. Here at this selection, I think you could talk about Whit Weeks. Teran York is intriguing, but his losses are just petrifying. Like, it scares the shit out of me to support him. I'm going to go Eli Raritan, tight end out of Notre Dame, a top 50 player for me in this class. I really wish that Trev had him in here. Trev, please put my guy in here. We're going to use Luke Hodge as the placeholder there, but Eli Raritan, tight end, Notre Dame, one of the best blockers in the country in a very high tier receiving tight end as well. Just somebody who is consistently dominant, worth the risk. New England Patriots at 61, Nick Harbor, the first round selection. That'll get some interaction. But here in round number 2, I'm actually looking at R. Mason Thomas. He might have undersized arm length, but this is the style of edge rusher in terms of the build and the athletic profile that is having success in New England. And I think it's the vision going forward. We're going to go after someone who is he acts like a Wolverine, just like feisty player. Definitely somebody that I think would end up modeling what Vrabel is looking at. So two very good players for the respective systems they're going into. 62 for the Philadelphia Eagles, Keldrick Falk, the first round selection. Honestly, in retrospect, I feel like I should have went after Christian Miller and then ended up just trying to target somebody to... What? My blind ass missed Malachi Lawrence? By the way, he's 6'5", 263 with 35-inch arms. What? It's like Christmas. No way. That's sick. Hell yeah. All right. Look at that. I can guarantee some of y'all like, dude, this dumbass already like looked through and didn't even see the guy right in front of his face. That's funny as hell. Um, well, shit. Now, damn. That's so cool. Thanks, Trev. I appreciate that. Now, did I miss Eli Raritan or something? Like, I got to double check because I know I didn't see him, but it was still worth like, did we fuck up there? But no fuck up detected. Looking at some tackle situations, Caden Green, guarded tackle capability, definitely a unique option because he could take over as like the right guard for Steen. Honestly, the interior offensive line has been very, very like up and down. Um, Definitely just like a weird spot. I would say Emil Wagner, if you could trade back, he's probably going to return to school too, to be fair. But if he decides to come out, I would say Emil Wagner's a really good fit for the team. Young, athletic, true right tackle, just feels a little bit more on brand. Again, we took an edge in the first who's more of a tweener. You still could take an absolute like an outside linebacker type, and I'd be perfectly fine with it. I'm going to look at the corners here. AJ Harris just kind of feels like yeah, okay, kind of guy. And that does just kind of feel like the type of thing you got to go after. I would love to go Miles Kitzelman at this point, but the problem is this guy's drops have been so ass this year. Now, there are plays where I'm seeing Miles Kitzelman get wide open. He's not being targeted. I think he could end up having 300 yards and probably 4 touchdowns at this point. But the problem is his drops are absolutely atrocious. Still arguably the best blocking tight end in the entire country. But yeah, I can't support that. So I just feel like the best option here is just to go after old but gold. It kind of feels like how it was with Andrew Makuba last year as well. It's like, well, we'd like to move back, but the value's there. We're going to go after it, and that's AJ Harris. At number 63 for the Green Bay Packers, no selection so far. It looks like they were trying to go after Keon White, apparently. Could we? I'm like trying to find a way to justify Malachi Lawrence to the Packers. That would be so fun. Not going to do it because I don't, unless we could get to that situation. We'll have to discuss, we'll have to get there. But Packers wide receiver wise, I do think they could try to invest further. And, Jeremy Bernard is a short range guy, would be intriguing after the catchability. Same thing with Omar Cooper. Like, Omar's been great after the catch. So, like, this is definitely going to be a rack threat. The problem is this team just does such a good job, like, sniping guys on day 3 in that category. Same thing offensive line wise. I mean, again, like tight end, you have arguably the most red hot tight end in the NFL. You could talk about him as the best based on health and everything. But I mean, offensively, I feel like you guys are good. It's just, corner. I mean, like, there's just not good options here, guys. There's just not. Like, do I do a trade in a no trades mock draft? That'd be crazy. That'd be funny. I'm not going to do that because I do think that would just undermine the purpose. We'll go and get some beef on the interior. If you guys got to stick and pick, you got to go after a talent. And, for me, I think plugging the run in the NFC North is super crucial. Darrell Jackson is, I believe, the highest run defense grade out of defensive interiors, or at least nose tackles, at an 88.5 for PFF. And at 64, Indianapolis Colts, another team that could look at corner. Zion Young, the first pick. If I just ended up going after like Julian Neal or Keith Abney or some shit, I could have ended up going after my guy, Malachi Lawrence. Oh, breaks my heart, but that's okay. Right tackle is possible, but again, if we didn't do it for the Eagles, and if I can't believe in it for Stalin, you bet your ass I'm not believing it for this offensive line. Wide receiver, some people talk about as a dark horse position if they want to reshuffle how their wide receiver core is, with A.D. Mitchell not really stepping into the role that he should. Again, I feel pretty comfortable offensively with where they're at this point, which is nuts to say. So we already went after edge. Corner, again, I just talked about it. The value just not really there. So I would just go after wide receiver, a linebacker at this point. Harold Perkins is holding out. Don't know what the fuck that's about. But I'm looking at Kyle Lewis. He is one of my top linebackers in the entire country on my board. And I think Lou would absolutely love to utilize Kyle Lewis as a chess piece and kind of just put him everywhere. He's reliable versus the run and coverage as a pass rusher as well. Maybe not like an elite pass rusher in my opinion, but I mean, you can still send him on blitzes, especially if you try to utilize him in the slot and you just end up sending him on like a slot blitz. That'd be pretty fun. But we're going to go after Kyle Lewis, show the love there. Oh, what a video. What a video. It's 11-12 for me, but I love you guys. Thank you again for watching and supporting the show as always. I will see you later. Peace.